with anticipation to see if Raw's usual January boost with the end of football and start of the Rumble to Mania season happens, with Raw opening the new year on a different network for the first time, and with the first Raw of 2001 taking place on a holiday weekend on New Year's Eve with no real indication on a potential pattern yet. January 8th confirmed the worrying signs since the move to TNN of the ceiling now being much lower with a limited reach compared to the USA Network, as while the company is still booming in most aspects of business and SmackDown viewership continuing at near record levels despite Raw's decline in numbers since October, it was starting to be clear early in the year that at least the viewership peak of the boom period is in the past, with the company seeing the first 2 weeks of the year averaging less than 6 million viewers with no major pickup of additional viewers that in the past 2 years sent the show to break records by mid-January, with January 8th on the night that was targeted as the big rebound actually dropping from the New Year's Eve audience to 5.8 million viewers, with the positive sign of the night being the second hour spiking big from 5.2 to 6.4 million viewers, driven by a big jump of over 1.2 million viewers at the top of the hour for a Rock and Referees vs. Kane and Rikishi match, doing the highest rated quarter of the night, 5.3 rating. Followed by the main event of Angle vs. Austin for the title, peaking the night with a 5.7 rating and over 6.9 million viewers in the 11-minute overrun, with the strong second-hour pickup carrying over to the following week as Raw shot back up to over 6.2 million viewers over the 2 hours on the back of a big increase for the first hour, jumping back into the 5 rating range for the first time since October, seeing the biggest viewership spike of the night coming in the second quarter between 9:15 to 9:30, with Triple H and Stephanie coming out for a promo with Vince McMahon on location directing things via satellite throughout the night while getting ready for the league kickoff on Saturday, February 3rd, and a segment gaining over 1.5 million viewers to a first-hour high 5.6 rating, with a 10 to 11 p.m. hour similar to last week picking up on the back of the top 2 matches, first with a Rock and Kane against Taker and Rikishi tag match going 8 minutes with a jump of over 900,000 viewers to the peak quarter of the night, 5.7 rating, and another strong bump to peak in the overrun with Austin and the Acolytes vs. Angle, Edge and Christian 6-man tag, followed by the show closing angle of Triple H going face-to-face with Austin playing off Vince's no provocation stipulation, closing with a 5.8 and the highest rated Raw on an opposed night in 3 months. And after the past 2 weeks of showing positive signs of things starting to trend upwards, January 22nd coming 24 hours after a near-record Royal Rumble pay-per-view, Raw spiked huge over its recent average to shatter every record in TNN history, averaging 7.4 million viewers to break the record set on December 11th, with the company starting the road to WrestleMania 17 back into record territory, opening strong from the first quarter with over 6.7 million viewers in the biggest opening ever on TNN, while trending up throughout the night, including a million viewers jump from a 5 to 5.7 rating for a Hardys vs. Acolytes tag match and a Rock sit-down interview recapping the Rumble match while hyping the road to WrestleMania coming up, with the record broadcast peaking less than 30 minutes later with a Rock and Jericho against Big Show and Benoit tag match opening the second hour, as the match gaining over 2 quarters bump draw to a 6.2 rating with over 8.2 million viewers. Not only the highest rated full quarter ever but the biggest audience to ever watch the network in its history, driving the second hour ending at the show's average 5.6 rating for a mixed tag match in the overrun, and Rumble winner Austin making his first appearance past 11 p.m. to average over 7.5 million viewers to break the 7.4 million viewership record for a full hour set on the debut night on September 25th. With the company after the slow start to the year turning things around over the past 2 weeks to close January with another strong number on a show averaging around 7 million viewers, built up on 2 major segments hyped over the weekend, with a 4-way #1 contender match for a shot at Kurt Angle on SmackDown and the contract signing for the Austin vs. Triple H pay-per-view match, seeing the hyped 13-minute contract signing segment picking up over 1.1 million viewers throughout, closing the first hour with a 5.8 rating before peaking at a show-high 6.2 at the top of the hour, going unopposed with around 8 million viewers, with the second hour staying strong to average over 7.3 million viewers, and another near-record TNN figure headlined with The Rock Benoit Jericho Big Show #1 contender match, with all 4 participants being placed in the same match again after drawing Raw's most-watched segment in network history for the tag match last Monday, jumping over 700,000 viewers to a 5.9 rating, with Raw overall drawing its most-watched show on an opposed night in 4 months. The debut of the XFL took all the headlines to start February, not only in the wrestling industry but in general sports and entertainment, with massive hype to lead to the debut broadcast on NBC surpassing all expectations, drawing a huge 9.5 rating with over 15.6 million viewers in the most-watched show on television on the night for any genre, putting Vince McMahon after the past several months of talks of him shifting his focus from the WWF product to the launch of the league, in the mainstream spotlight perhaps more than at any point in his career, to put him after the huge opening weekend on top of both the sports and entertainment worlds in one of the biggest highlights of his career, with Raw 2 days after the debut coming in front of over 25,000 from the Georgia Dome, remaining above the recent average with over 6.7 million viewers, peaking with 5.7 ratings first, with a Taker and Kane vs Studley's tag titles match jumping over 1.1 million viewers, followed by a big star power tag match set in the opening segment with Rock and Angle against Austin and Hunter, closing another near-record TNN hour with over 7.5 million viewers, closing the build-up to the double headliner at the No Way Out pay-per-view over the next 2 weeks, with Raw peaking with a 5.3 rating for the main events on both weeks, building up the match in the opening segment on February 12th with Rock vs Rikishi representing Austin and Hunter for the match stipulation, going 6 minutes in a match starting already in the overrun, followed by the go-home show with all 4 participants cutting the final selling promos to the double headliner on Sunday, targeted to draw one of the biggest pay-per-views in history, headlined with a heavily hyped Dream Tag match advertised on WWF TV over the weekend since being announced on SmackDown, with Rock and Austin against Angle and Benoit on February 19th. Going 11 minutes to peak the night with a 5.3 rating in the 8-minute overrun, with Raw's highest rated and most watched show of the month coming on February 26th, the day after the pay-per-view, with the stage now officially set for the most anticipated match of the WWF boom period, with The Rock and Steve Austin set for the WrestleMania 17 main event, years in the making, with Rock opening the show as the new WWF champion, followed by Austin coming out minutes later to officially start the build-up to the match in an iconic image set to be used all over the promotion and marketing to the show, targeted to break every record in history, with the hype now going into overdrive for the next 5 weeks, seeing Raw's opening quarter, after taking a hit in the past several months, spiking big on the night, with the Rock-Austin segment bumping Raw over 1.7 million viewers over last Monday to open with a 4.4 opening quarter rating with over 6 million viewers, the highest rated opposed opening segment since November 2000. On a night seeing Raw peaking with 5.6 ratings first, with a promoted rare Vince McMahon match teaming with Trish against Regal and Stephanie to set up a swerve for the finish, followed by the main event 3-way hardcore match with Rock, Angle and Show, going 8 minutes to jump over 800,000 viewers to a joint peak 5.6 rating with over 7.3 million viewers, closing the show drawing the month-high viewership of 6.8 million, with another Austin-Rock stare-down on the way to the eventual clash over the next month. The end of the Monday Night Wars in one of the most historic nights in industry history on March 26 saw perhaps its most surreal moment coming on its final night, with Vince McMahon opening WCW's final Nitro broadcast to announce himself as the new owner of the company, highlighted by an unprecedented simulcast on TNN and TNT later tonight, with Raw going on the air with Vince again the first one on screen to announce the news to the WWF audience minutes away from the big segment of the night, starting the historic simulcast at 9:43 p.m. with the TNT feed joining Raw's TNN broadcast during Vince's entrance in an unprecedented situation, not only for the historical significance of it in the wrestling industry but television in general, with 2 competing TV networks broadcasting the same live show at the same time, with this segment seeing Vince McMahon declared as the official winner of the Monday Night War, followed by Shane McMahon showing up on Nitro to reveal himself as the new WCW owner in one of the most memorable segments the industry has ever seen, with this segment jumping big on both channels, gaining combined over 1.4 million viewers to a 3.5 rating on TNT and 4.4 on TNN. Combining to a 7.9 rating with over 10.4 million viewers watching the promo, with the breakdown of over 4.3 million viewers on Nitro and over 6 million on Raw. With March 2001 heading into the 26th seeing the intensity of the WrestleMania build-up picking up by the week, with March 5th in addition to the debut of Paul Heyman as JR's new commentary partner, seeing the most talked about segment of the night taking place midway through the show, with Trish coming to the ring seconds from 10 p.m. to call out Vince McMahon, ending up with her apologizing in what was on paper a major heat angle that turned Vince babyface in front of the Washington crowd, with this segment gaining big at the top of the hour with over 1.5 million viewers to a peak 5.6 rating with over 7.3 million viewers, the highest rated segment of the night by a wide margin, closing the second hour averaging 6.5 million viewers, with the second segment of the night to enter the 5 rating range, with The Rock and Austin vs Triple H and Angle main event jumping over 600,000 viewers, with Rock pinning Angle for the finish, setting up the biggest audience of the month on March 12th, with Raw in front of over 15,000 from the Staples Center built around The Rock vs Angle WWF title rematch. Seeing Raw showing a strong hour-to-hour pickup to go from 5.7 in the first to over 6.8 million viewers in the second, with Vince and Trish placed at the top of the hour segment again after the big buzz and viewership spike of last Monday, bringing out the returning Shane McMahon to set up the Vince vs Shane WrestleMania match in a segment bumping Raw a million viewers to a 5.6 rating. And after 2 hours of hype which included several Austin Rock Angle segments heading into the match, Rock vs Angle for the title went 13 minutes in the main event, jumping over 900,000 viewers to the peak of the night 5.8 rating, the highest rated main event segment of the year so far and the highest on an opposed night in general since October 23, 2000, in the most watched segment of the month totaling over 7.4 million viewers, ending the show with the first shot to up the intensity of the WrestleMania main event build-up, with Austin laying out Rock with a stunner 20 days to the match, building up March 19th on Rock's response with him waiting for Austin to arrive outside the building, on a show seeing the biggest viewership spike coming in the second quarter for the follow-up of Shane's return challenging Vince to officially set up the match in a segment bumping Raw over 1.3 million viewers in minutes to go from a 3.5 to 4.6 rating, continuing the show-long hype for the eventual Rock-Austin confrontation, with Austin arriving at the New York airport at 10:40 p.m., closing the show with a Rock and Jericho vs Angle Benoit and Regal handicap match jumping over 700,000 viewers to a 5.1 rating in the 8-minute overrun, with Austin running in to go after Rock at 11:06 p.m., ending up in a chaotic brawl that eventually saw Rock laying out Austin back heading into the final week of the build-up to the pay-per-view, with the final ever Nitro broadcast on March 26 symbolically going off the air with a WrestleMania promo for the WWF's 2 biggest stars of the Monday Night War's boom period heading into the highest profile match of their career against each other in 6 days, seeing Raw headlined by a big star power tag match of Rock and Austin against Undertaker and Kane in the first ever live Raw match to also be advertised on the Nitro broadcast on the same night, seeing Rock and Austin making their entrances already past 11 p.m. to go 10 minutes in the overrun, with Raw after Nitro went off the air with over 4.3 million viewers watching the Vince and Shane simulcast finish, picking up around 1.3 million viewers of that audience to over 6.4 million viewers in the second hour, with the go-home angle for the WrestleMania 17 main event seeing Rock giving Austin a stunner with a beer in hand as the final image for what is targeted to be the biggest money event the business has ever seen. After perhaps the most newsworthy week the industry has ever seen coming out of March 26 on the way to a strong contender for the greatest pay-per-view in history at WrestleMania 17, Raw on April 2, 24 hours after the show was set to start its new reality with the Raw and WWF brand in general, with monopoly on the industry now only competing against its past accomplishments, starting the new era on a record-breaking night with perhaps more historically significant questions for the future of the business than ever before. With boosted interest for the WrestleMania and WCW angle fallout spiking huge to over 7.4 million viewers to break the January 22 record as the most watched broadcast in TNN history, as Vince McMahon opened Raw building up the heat in Texas for Austin's first heel promo later in the show before being confronted by Rock, demanding a rematch against Austin for tonight, with Raw opening big with one of its highest viewerships in over 7 months, with the Rock-McMahon segment already picking up to over 7.7 million viewers to make it one of the most watched quarters in TNN history, with Vince McMahon returning to the ring at 9:57 p.m. and announced counter-programming to the Nitro main event, introducing Steve Austin to open Raw's second hour, gaining over 700,000 viewers to a 6.1 rating for Austin's heel turn follow-up promo in Raw's highest-rated quarter in over 2 months, with Raw's overall second hour building up to the main event averaging over 7.5 million viewers, slightly above the second hour in January, to make it the most watched full hour in network history, with Rock in the final night of the original run of his career, with him set to be written off television to film his debut lead role in The Scorpion King for the next several months. Cutting a pre-match promo minutes before the main event, with the Rock vs. Austin cage match going 10 minutes, with the company, due to the circumstances, giving away the rematch of the biggest money match in history just 24 hours later in one of the biggest matches ever booked on wrestling television, gaining over 1.1 million viewers to a peak 6.4 rating, with over 8.3 million viewers to make it the most watched match in TNN history. Writing Rock off television with a suspension angle, with Austin and Hunter set to try to fill the void as the top act in the company after losing the two biggest babyfaces of the generation in the span of 24 hours, and with the crossover of WCW viewers still not clear on April 2, with a record audience expected on Raw either way. April 9 gave a better indication on the potential future of the over 3 million regular Nitro viewers, with Raw drawing 6.7 million viewers. A figure that, while significantly above the recent average of the past month, in line with the audience several shows drew so far this year, even on opposed nights, with Raw after the past 2 weeks of all-time game-changing news, with blockbuster events going back to regularly scheduled programming on the show, seeing the continuation of Austin establishing himself as a heel with the big quarter of the night coming at 10 p.m. Seeing Linda McMahon after hyping a confrontation with Vince since last Thursday, calling him out, to end up with her asking for divorce, with the 13-minute segment jumping over 1.1 million viewers to the peak of the night's 6.2 rating, and one of the highest rated and most watched segments of the year, with over 7.8 million viewers, with Raw entering the 6 rating range for the second time on the night in the main event 6-man tag match, with Austin and Hunter teaming for the first time against the Hardys to end with a major heat angle, gaining over 900,000 viewers, with Raw after holding strong the previous week remaining above the 6.5 million viewers range on April 16, with another slight drop from the 6.7 million of last Monday, with the viewing pattern unlike the big spike for the Vince-Linda segment, seeing a more routine show with no major bumps to peak already at 9:45 p.m. at the end of the first hour, with Kurt Angle vs. Chris Jericho going 7 minutes to a 5.2 rating, as Raw's second hour, which went unopposed from Nitro either way, dropped on the night from the 7 million plus range of the past 2 weeks to 6.6 million viewers, peaking in the overrun for Triple H vs. Jeff Hardy, followed by the post-match angle with a 5.9 rating. And with Vince and Austin on the night only having 15 minutes of airtime to take out the 3 biggest draws of the boom period on WWF television, with Rock, Austin and McMahon barely appearing on the shows over the past week at a crucial time, with the short window of getting the lost WCW viewership appears to be closing by the week. Raw closed the build-up to Backlash in front of over 17,000 in a new market, with the first ever Raw in Denver, seeing the show built on 2 tag matches drawing the biggest numbers of the night, with Angle and Regal against Benoit and Jericho doing a quarter-high 5.5 rating at the top of the hour, followed by an 8-man tag, and the main event gaining over 800,000 viewers to peak with a 5.6 rating in the 7-minute overrun. And after temporarily stopping the slide on April 23 with the broadcast slightly increasing on the previous Monday to go from 6.55 to 6.58 million viewers, April 30th, despite coming off Backlash the night before not getting the usual pay-per-view boost, to drop to a month-low 6.4 million viewers. And with Austin and Hunter now holding the top 4 titles in the company, the top promoted segment of the show saw Vince McMahon Austin and Hunter State of the Union address taking place at 10 p.m., jumping to a quarter-high 5.3 rating to set up Linda McMahon booking Austin and Hunter in 2 separate singles matches in the next hour, with Hunter against Test and Austin against Taker for the title in the main event, peaking with a 5.6 rating and 7 million viewers during the 4-minute overrun for the Austin Taker-Kane Hunter show closing brawl, with Raw on the back of the massive audience for the record broadcast on April 2nd, followed by a boost from potential WCW viewers, with the show going the full 2 hours unopposed on a weekly basis in this format for the first time in its history, ending up averaging over 6.7 million viewers in April 2001 and the most watched month of Raw since its final month on the USA Network in September 2000. With the realization that any crossover boost from WCW viewers is dwindling by the week over the past month, Raw saw its most alarming rating drop since the end of the Monday Night Wars, dropping below the 6 million viewers range for the first time since Nitro went off the air in its 5th straight week of decline, while seeing worrying viewing patterns all over the show, including a rare situation of the first-hour viewership on the night with 5.9 million viewers outdrawing the second, which dropped to a 2001 low second-hour total of 5.6 million. With the show after opening with a 21-minute segment featuring Foley and Rikishi's returns to set up the main event against Austin, peaking at 10 p.m. for a Jericho vs. Regal cage match with a 4.9 rating before sliding throughout the rest of the night, with the Austin vs. Rikishi main event going 7 minutes into the overrun, gaining over 700,000 viewers to finish at around the show's average with a 4.7 overrun rating in the lowest rated Raw main event on a regular week since November '99. With the downward trend accelerating further on May 14th, with the show dropping to by far the least watched Raw of the year, averaging 5.3 million viewers. With bad news coming from the start, as after the 3.9 first quarter rating and the lowest unopposed opening in years, the show hovered around the 4.5 to 4.7 rating range for most of the night, with no major bumps throughout, including not seeing the usual top-of-the-hour boost in a quarter featuring Jericho and Benoit against Edge and Christian in a tag match going 7 minutes to a 4.4 rating, before peaking with the Austin and Triple H vs. Kane main event jumping 500,000 viewers to the peak 4.8 rating in the 7-minute overrun, with the show signaling on a potential dangerous free-fall in interest, with the panic from the WCW collapse of just a few years ago still fresh in mind, with Raw dropping in viewership for the 6th week in a row in a pattern that Nitro, even going against the peaking Raw, didn't experience at any point in show history, indicating on not only not getting the 2.5 to 3 million regular WCW viewers to boost the show, but on regular WWF viewers now tuning out by the week, with the show dropping over 2 million viewers from April 2nd over the last 7 weeks of steady decline, with Raw after a near panic mode the previous week finally breaking the streak on May 21st. As while the show coming a day after the Judgment Day pay-per-view still dropped in the rating to the lowest in years with a 4.2, boosted interest on the night saw it increasing in viewership to rebound 400,000 viewers over the year's low of last Monday to 5.7 million viewers, seeing the company trying to go in a new direction to refresh the TV product, with Benoit and Jericho elevated to main event status to set up a main event tag titles match against Austin and Hunter, with Raw peaking an hour earlier at the top of the hour segment seeing Kurt Angle's Olympic celebration reenactment, with the return of Shane McMahon to announce that WCW is starting soon, doing a peak 4.9 rating, before the main event tag match ended up memorable for several reasons, with the match hyped as a career-defining for Benoit and Jericho, kicking off seconds from 11 p.m. to go the full match past the top of the hour, with the 14-minute match seeing Raw taking the longest overrun in show history to almost go a full extra quarter past 11 p.m. in a match seeing Triple H suffering a major knee injury to write him off TV for the rest of the year, with Benoit and Jericho winning the tag titles to gain around 500,000 viewers to finish at a 4.5 rating with over 6.2 million viewers. And if the thought of the increase on May 21st was indicating on a new pattern of upwards momentum, May 28th fell back to near year's low territory, back to 5.3 million viewers, with the broadcast on the back of a unique atmosphere with a hot crowd at the Saddle Dome in Calgary seeing the positive sign on the night, being the biggest hour-to-hour increase since April 9th, to go from 5.1 million in the first hour to over 5.6 million viewers in the second, with interest picking up throughout, including perhaps the biggest angle of the night, ending the first hour with the unofficial start of the Invasion angle, with Lance Storm becoming the first WCW wrestler to invade a WWF show since March 26, building up the rest of the show headlined by a Benoit vs. Austin title match in front of the hot Canadian crowd to peak the broadcast at a 4.8 rating with over 6 million viewers. After opening with the lowest rated quarter in years 3.1 rating on June 4th, Raw spiked big minutes later for a big star power promo segment of Vince McMahon, Mick Foley, and a surprise appearance by Governor Jesse Ventura in his home state at the Target Center in Minnesota, bumping Raw over 1.3 million viewers from a 3.1 to 4.1 rating to set up the main event of Austin vs. Jericho for the title, on a show seeing The Undertaker Stalker angle heating up in a promo on one of the three 4.5 rated quarters in the second hour, averaging over 5.7 million viewers, peaking in the main event for the first ever Austin vs. Jericho singles match, going 11 minutes into the 8-minute overrun to the peak of the night 5 rating, the highest rated main event on Raw in over a month, and the first segment to break into the 5 rating range overall since April 30th. With the show overall ending the 8 consecutive weeks of ratings decline, which started from April 9 through May 28 to go from 4.2 last Monday to 4.3 tonight, with the following 2 weeks still showing no signs of a turnaround as Raw dropped further into a year's low average of 5.2 million viewers on both weeks, while again at least showing positive viewing patterns, with the shows increasing significantly from hour to hour with over 800,000 viewers. First on June 11th seeing a show-long angle of Steve Austin starting a new direction in his heel run, going crazy all over the building after being booked in a 3-way against Benoit and Jericho, peaking with two 4.5 ratings for a Kurt Angle segment with Taker and Shane at the top of the hour, gaining over 700,000 viewers, followed by the main event cage match of Angle vs. Benoit, going all out for 15 minutes in one of the most spectacular matches ever seen on wrestling television, gaining over 600,000 viewers in the 11-minute overrun, with the big segment of the night on June 18th coming seconds from 10 p.m. with the Stalker coming out on Undertaker's motorcycle to reveal himself as Dallas Page, to a massive reaction, officially kicking off the Invasion angle as the first top WCW player to show up on WWF television, with the Page debut promo, which despite taking only 6 minutes out of the quarter jumping over 700,000 viewers to a 4.6 rating. The highest rated full quarter on Raw in the month, on the show headlined by a 6-man tag match of Austin and the Dudleys against Benoit, Jericho and Spike, going 12 minutes to jump over 900,000 viewers to peak at a 5 rating in the joint highest rated Raw main event in the past 7 weeks. And with Raw's struggles continuing for the first 3 weeks of the month, the official start of the build-up to the Invasion pay-per-view on the most hyped Raw in months from Madison Square Garden signaled on June 25th as one of the most game-changing broadcasts of the year, with the rebound kicking off on the night, seeing Vince McMahon setting the stage for the show, saying that no WCW performer is allowed in this building to build the historical significance of WCW invading the place most synonymous with WWF history. seeing viewership grow in almost every quarter throughout the night while entering back into the 5 rating range for a full quarter at the top of the hour with Taker and Kane versus the Dudleys for the tag titles, with Page laying out Taker post-match, followed immediately by the start of the big angle of the night with Shane McMahon arriving at WWF New York hyping the Invasion before introducing Booker T for his first ever Raw appearance as the man to lead the new WCW, with Booker cutting a promo on Austin building up the first ever WWF vs WCW Champions confrontation, with this segment seeing Raw continuing to climb to peak at a 5.2 rating in the highest rated quarter of the night, setting up the main event segment with Austin and Angle heavily featured throughout the show as the main act on the WWF side, in a comedic dynamic with Vince McMahon in the middle, driving from the Garden to take the challenge at Times Square, with one of the most unique segments in Raw history closing the show in 2 locations, with Vince walking to the ring seconds after 11 p.m. just as Austin and Angle arrived at WWF New York, with Austin calling out Booker in response to bring him out along with Shane at the Garden, with Booker laying out Vince before bailing out of the building to take the intensity of the feud to the next level, with the 6-minute overrun with the Vince, Shane, Booker, Austin and Angle segment seeing the show picking up big to a 5.6 rating with over 6.5 million viewers, the highest rated segment on Raw in almost 2 months, with the company, after kicking off the inter-promotional rivalry over the past week, finally getting positive signs on a legit turnaround, with Raw jumping big to a 3-month high 4.7 rating. Riding the momentum of the official start of the Angle with the WCW Invasion to the Garden on back-to-back nights starting last Monday, Raw kicked off an unprecedented month of product turnaround in July 2001, with interest spiking by the week in the biggest month-to-month viewership increase in show history to go within weeks from the lowest rated viewership total since the company entered the peak of the boom period to the most watched month of the year and one of the most memorable 5-week periods in wrestling television history, with historically significant moments taking place on a weekly basis throughout, starting on July 2nd for a show ending up all-time game-changing for several reasons on screen and behind the scenes, kicking off Raw from the Tacoma Dome with the announcement of the first ever WCW main event on WWF television with Booker vs Bagwell for the title, seeing the segment opening Raw with its biggest audience in almost 2 months, doing a 3.9 rating, with things continuing to trend upwards for the rest of the night, picking up viewers in every single quarter of the show in a viewing pattern resembling the peak period as compared to the past few months, with the second hour on the night ending up the most watched hour of Raw since April, averaging over 6.4 million viewers, with the company officially stopping the slide started since the day after WrestleMania 17. As 10:44 p.m. on Monday, July 2, 2001 was the moment that just a few months ago seemed like a wild dream, with WCW taking over the WWF's flagship program, given the main event quarter with Booker vs Bagwell headlining the first ever WCW RAW in front of over 18,000 WWF fans, selling out the Tacoma Dome months in advance, largely before any plan was set for a WCW relaunch on Raw, ending up with them turning on the match before it started, to see it having major repercussions on the future direction of the business, with the overrun seeing the payoff of the show-long Vince Tory angle just as Austin and Angle took out the WCW wrestlers on the other side of the stadium, seeing the first WCW RAW quarter hour while not going as planned in execution in front of the live crowd, showing strong intrigue in front of the TV audience, with the Booker-Bagwell match doing the highest rated quarter of the night with a 5 rating before the finish and post-match brawl, along with the Vince Tory segment jumping over a million viewers in the 7-minute overrun to peak at a 5.7 rating with over 7.3 million viewers, the highest rated and most watched segment on Raw since April 16, with the upwards trend continuing to July 9th, with the show opening with over 5.2 million viewers in the most watched opening segment in months, with the broadcast set to feature major angles in almost every segment of the show in a TV format resembling the fast-paced, unpredictable product that built the peak viewership of the boom period, seeing the big match of the night placed at 10 p.m. with Booker T vs Kurt Angle in the promoted first ever WCW vs WWF inter-promotional match, jumping over 700,000 viewers to enter the 5 rating range for the first time on the night and stay there for the rest of the show, while just minutes later Raw saw another historic moment taking place with the relaunch of the entire Invasion angle, seeing Paul Heyman revealing the reformation of ECW as the third wheel in the Invasion, with the segment doing a 5.1 rating in the highest rated full quarter of the night, with the loaded second hour overall, which saw almost no downtime on the night, averaging over 6.9 million viewers, indicating on a massive boost of interest coming off the past 2 weeks of storylines and the most watched hour of Raw since before the recent slide started on April 9th. Continuing the turnaround that saw Raw being threatened to drop below 5 million viewers to the show now again hovering around 7 million in a span of a few weeks, peaking the broadcast past 11 p.m. for the show closing swerve of WCW and ECW joining forces, with the segment jumping over 1 million viewers to peak the night at a 5.6 rating with over 7.6 million viewers. The most watched segment on Raw since April 9th to close one of the most newsworthy nights in Raw history with a 3-month high of over 6.4 million viewers. Building July 16th, 6 days from the Invasion pay-per-view on a show-long build-up to the return of the old Stone Cold, building up the hype over the next 2 hours, with Raw starting already in the 4 rating range for the first time in 2 months, before a massive second-hour spike seeing the show entering back into the 7 million viewers range, first with a Booker vs Jericho WCW title match doing the biggest viewership gain of the night with over 900,000 viewers to a 5.5 rating, with the highest rated quarter of the night coming 20 minutes later for the final selling promos of the WWF and Alliance groups doing a 5.6 rating in the highest rated full quarter in months, doing over 7 million viewers. Before the show closing brawl previewing the pay-per-view, with Austin arriving to the building at 11:03 p.m. to a massive reaction to clear the ring in an all-time Raw highlight, peaking the night in the overrun with a 5.8 rating in the highest rated segment on Raw in almost 3 months, to see the show overall getting back into the 5 rating range. With July 23rd not only continuing the rapid rebound but almost entering into record territory, with the show coming 24 hours after the Invasion pay-per-view, spiking huge with over 1 million viewers increase over last Monday, averaging over 7.3 million viewers in the third most watched broadcast in TNN history. Starting huge with over 6 million viewers from the first quarter, with Austin's follow-up heel turn promo jumping over 700,000 viewers to a 4.9 rating to make it Raw's most watched opening segment since Rock and McMahon post-WrestleMania 17, while exactly an hour later Vince McMahon arrived to the building at 10:22 p.m. for the big segment of the night, announcing that he's reinstating Rock, as the building erupted in one of Vince's most memorable promos in his career, with this segment taking place over 2 quarters at 10:30 p.m. seeing Raw continuing to climb now at accelerated pace with a 5.8 rating and around 8 million viewers, with the second hour picking up viewers by the minute throughout the broadcast, averaging a huge figure of over 7.7 million viewers to break the record set on the day after WrestleMania 17 as the most watched full hour in TNN history, closing the show with a 15-minute 6-man tag match of Angle, Edge and Christian against Booker and the Dudleys, jumping to a 6.1 rating with a massive near-record figure of over 8.2 million viewers, making both the rating and viewership figures the highest on a Raw broadcast since Rock's last appearance on April 2nd, to set the stage for a massive peak next Monday. And with the hype growing daily since the Vince promo last Monday, the WWF and TNN were preparing for a record-breaking night for the network, with the stage set for the turnaround to be completed back to peak numbers, with TNN doing a mega hype job over the weekend after the return was officially advertised on the SmackDown broadcast last Thursday, with constant commercials leading up to Monday night for Rock's first TV appearance in 4 months, with him coming back to wrestling television as the most publicized wrestler in history after massive mainstream media coverage over the last several months, seeing the massive boosted interest on the night kicking off just as the show went on the air, with the first quarter opening with a 4.6 rating and over 6.2 million viewers in the highest rated opening segment in almost 4 months, with the top match of the night coming at the top of the hour with Angle vs Booker for the WCW title bumping Raw to a 5.8 rating, and with all network records on target on the night after the mega hype for the broadcast during the week. The second 10 to 11:09 p.m. hour saw TNN breaking the record for the most watched hour in network history, set between 10 to 11 last Monday, with the hour overall driven by the biggest audience to ever tune into the network by a massive margin during the main event segments, Raw drawing a 6.1 rating with over 8 million viewers, making both figures all-time highs for TNN and for Raw, the first full hour to enter the 6 rating range since October 23 and the most viewers for any hour on the show since the second hour on September 11, 2002, weeks before leaving the USA Network. And at 10:39 p.m. Rock was finally shown near the First Union Center as the crowd erupted with the return minutes away, as the 10:30 to 10:45 p.m. quarter jumped to a 6 rating with over 7.9 million viewers in the first full quarter on Raw to enter the 6 rating range since April 9, followed by Rock's arrival at 10:52 p.m. with him walking out to a huge ovation 2 minutes from the top of the hour, with Raw's final quarter featuring the second half of the Taker and Kane vs Dudley's Tables match, followed by the start of the Rock McMahon segment, already picking up a big to a record 6.4 rating, the highest rated full quarter hour in TNN history, with the all-time memorable return segment crossing 9 minutes past 11 p.m. which saw Rock laying out Vince and Shane before announcing his return to the WWF to a massive reaction, spiking huge with over 1.6 million viewers to an all-time record 7.1 rating with over 9.2 million viewers, making it by far the highest rated and most watched segment in TNN history by a million viewers margin, driving Raw overall to a year-high 5.7 rating with over 7.6 million viewers to break the TNN viewership record of 7.4 million set on the day after WrestleMania 17 in what was also Rock's last night on the show, to lead to the unprecedented situation of Rock driving 2 network record audiences in back-to-back appearances, with the 7.6 million total viewers making it the most watched program in the network's 18-year history. With the WWF rapidly catching fire back over the past month to culminate in the all-time peak last Monday, the build-up to SummerSlam was heating up on August 6, with the company delaying the originally planned Rock vs Austin rematch to instead have them facing Booker and Angle in the double headliner, with Raw on the night built around the wrestling TV return of Rock after 4 months, targeting another massive audience, remaining at near-record TNN levels above the 7 million viewers mark to make it the first time since the move from the USA Network, where Raw drew over 7 million total viewers for 3 weeks in a row, driven by a massive second hour which also included a Dudley's vs Angle and Jericho tag match and Austin vs Matt Hardy on the way to the main event, with Raw continuing the strong viewing pattern, increasing in every quarter to go from 4.5 at 9 p.m. to 5.9 rating at 11. Drawing 7.5 million viewers in the 5th most watched hour in network history, as Rock and Shane with their all-time 10.8 million viewers record match from May 2000 still in mind, coming out at 10:50 p.m. to go 9 minutes in a brawl all over the Anaheim Pond, gaining over 700,000 viewers to a 6.3 rating with over 8.1 million viewers, the highest rated match on Raw since Rock's last match on the show in the cage against Austin on April 2. With the road to SummerSlam closed on a loaded show from the Allstate Arena in Chicago on August 13, starting strong from the first quarter with a 21-minute segment of Austin addressing the Alliance group, seeing Raw opening big with a 4.9 rating in the highest-rated opening quarter since the night after WrestleMania 17 and one of the highest-rated openings in the TNN era overall. And after opening with an over 20-minute promo, the most talked-about segment of the night came less than an hour later, with Booker, Rhino and Stephanie coming out to hype their SummerSlam matches against Rock and Jericho, to bring them out, with Rock cutting a comedic response promo before him and Jericho took turns running down Shane and Stephanie in one of the most memorable promo exchanges of the year that stirred things up backstage with Vince McMahon and the TNN censors, with the over 18-minute segment going over 2 quarters, doing the peak of the night with a 5.4 rating with over 6.8 million viewers. with all four coming back out at 10:55 p.m. for the main event tag match, kicking off 2 minutes from the top of the hour to gain over 900,000 viewers to a joint show-high 5.4 rating in the 9-minute overrun. With the day after one of the biggest SummerSlam pay-per-views of all time, Raw set up a different format with new WCW champion Rock coming out 14 minutes into the show to start the second quarter in a comedic segment with a mini booker to see Rock continuing his strong streak since coming back, as the second quarter in an almost unheard-of situation jumped huge with over 1.3 million viewers to the highest rated full quarter of the night with a 5.5 rating to peak already at 9:30 p.m. with Rock vs. Lance Storm opening Raw's second hour in a WCW title match, doing a 5.3 rating to the second highest rated full quarter of the night, with the hour overall jumping to over 6.9 million viewers, building up throughout the broadcast to the headline segment of the show with a promoted Austin appreciation segment hyped for the main event starting already 14 minutes from the top of the hour, with the final quarter climbing to a 5.2 rating, with the Full Alliance group entering the ring to set up the big angle of the night seconds from 11 p.m., bringing out Kurt Angle to a massive reaction on a milk truck in a memorable segment going over 20 minutes to peak in the final 7, with the overrun jumping over 1.2 million viewers to the peak of the night 5.9 rating with over 7.8 million viewers, closing the strong August with Raw maintaining almost the full post-SummerSlam viewership on August 27 to average over 6.5 million viewers, seeing the opening segment with a Shane and Rock promo confrontation setting up the top match of the night, with the first Rock vs. Rhino match for the WCW title opening the second hour, continuing Rock's show-high number streak with the Rock vs. Rhino match ending up the most-watched segment of the Raw broadcast by an over 500,000 viewers margin from any other segment on the night, going 8 minutes for the WCW title, with the match jumping over 800,000 viewers to the peak of the night 5.3 rating with over 7.2 million viewers, while building up to the main event tag match with an Austin injury angle for the rest of the show to see the match ending up with Angle and Jericho against Van Dam, with Taz replacing Austin to bump the show back to the show's average with a 5 rating in the 4-minute overrun, closing August 2001 averaging over 6.6 million viewers in one of Raw's strongest months since the move to TNN. The first ever Raw from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto in front of over an 18,000 sold-out crowd opened September, with the big news of the day seeing the WrestleMania 18 press conference officially announcing the event for the Toronto Skydome in March of next year, seeing a different viewing pattern on the night similar to last week, with viewership building strong throughout the first hour on the way to the top match of the night being again placed at 10 p.m. with Rock vs. Christian for the WCW title, with Christian and Rock making their entrances at 9:54 p.m. to first bump Raw to a first-hour high 4.9 rating, followed by the majority of Rock vs. Christian going 6 minutes in front of the hot Canadian crowd to jump big with over a million viewers over 2 quarters from a 4.7 to the peak 5.4 rating in Rock's 6th consecutive week of driving the highest-rated quarter of the night on every Raw show since coming back on July 30th. With the loaded quarter continuing as the second half of it saw Steve Austin's surprise reveal from the Alliance, which saw him presented with a new truck by Stephanie and Debray to set up the main angle for the next hour, with Angle laying him out to drive him to a bridge outside in Toronto, in an hour which also saw another major segment with the Christian turn on Edge to break up the team in front of their hometown crowd, with Angle and Austin getting to the bridge near the top of the hour at 11 p.m. with the payoff set for the overrun, leading from that point at 10:57 p.m. to an unexpected twist with TNN technical issues accidentally cutting off the satellite feed before the conclusion of the angle, cutting Raw's signal off the air in a misunderstanding before going to a blank screen for the next 8 minutes, eventually returning to the show closing segment of Angle and Austin on the bridge at 11:04 p.m. with the overrun after almost 8 straight minutes of commercial breaks and blank screen taking a major hit to drop to an overrun low 3.3 rating due to the circumstances. with Raw remaining in the same 4.6 rating with over 6.2 million viewers range for the following week, with September 10th built around the top Alliance members calling out Rock, Angle and Taker to set up a triple main event of Rock vs Test, Angle vs Van Dam and Taker vs Booker throughout the night, loading up the final 45 minutes of the broadcast with all the top 3 matches set to go back-to-back. Peaking in the first one between 10:15 to 10:30 with Undertaker vs Booker in a segment also featuring the debut of Kronik doing a 5 rating, followed by Angle vs Van Dam going over 2 quarters from 10:39 p.m. with Rock vs Test closing the show to bump Raw back over 600,000 viewers to a 4.7 rating in the overrun, with Raw now facing stronger sports competition in the fall TV season to drop from the year-high numbers of the past 2 months. With the first Raw after the tragedy coming in unique circumstances, with the WWF crew on the road for the past 2 weeks working around the new travel restrictions in the country, seeing the broadcast, which due to the unusual preparations featured mostly a series of matches with no big promo segments or major angles on the night, staying in the same range of the past couple weeks with over 6.1 million viewers, placing the 2 main event matches of the night in the final 20 minutes of the broadcast to go into the overrun on a rare show with barely any promo time from Rock and Austin, seeing Rock vs Test and Stephanie in a handicap match going 9 minutes over 2 quarters to jump over 400,000 viewers to a 4.9 rating, followed by the main event of Van Dam and Austin teaming up for the first time, with Austin working his first match on Raw in over a month, going 9 minutes into the 6-minute overrun to finish at a 4.8 rating in the final build to the Unforgiven pay-per-view. With the day after the event and what ended up the final Raw broadcast under the Raw is War brand was set to be headlined by a massive main event with the first ever Rock vs Van Dam match for the WCW title, with the second top match seeing new WWF champion Kurt Angle defending the title against Booker at the top of the hour to gain over 600,000 viewers to the highest rated full quarter of the show 4.8 rating, with Rock making his first appearance of the night at 10:41 p.m. with a classic promo singing a birthday song to Stephanie while hyping the main event coming up next. Seeing Rock and RVD after strong hype for the past 2 hours coming out 4 minutes from 11 p.m. with the first Rock vs Van Dam title match going 8 minutes to cross into the 6-minute overrun, jumping over 800,000 viewers to the peak of the night 5 rating with over 6.4 million viewers in the first time Raw peaked in the main event segment in over a month. Raw went on the air on October 1st with a logo in the opening video signaling on an end of an era, with the show renamed from Raw is War back to WWF Raw in response to the events of the past 3 weeks, starting fast with both WWF and WCW champions Angle and Rock making challenges to Shane and the Dudleys to set the top 2 matches for the night in the opening segment, opening Raw big with a 4.3 rating in the highest rated opening quarter in over a month, seeing the broadcast staying steady with 4.4 ratings in both hours to peak with the Rock vs Dudleys in a WCW title tables match kicking off the first Raw zone at 10 p.m. to a 4.7 rating with over 5.9 million viewers, followed by Angle vs Shane in a King of the Ring street fight rematch for the WWF title gaining over 600,000 viewers to close the show with a 4.5. Setting up the most hyped show of the month on October 8th built around the WWF title rematch of Angle vs Austin, with Austin set to make his first TV appearance since September 23rd with boosted marketing over the weekend advertising Raw as one of the biggest in show history, seeing the show overall averaging 5.7 million viewers and an almost 500,000 viewers increase over last Monday, peaking during the 2 hours with a Rock and Jericho vs Shane and Van Dam tag match opening the second hour to the highest rated quarter of the night 4.7 rating with over 6 million viewers, with Austin after not being seen for weeks finally making his return at 10:41 p.m. to kick off the Angle vs Austin title match after mega hype over the past several days at 10:47 to go over 17 minutes in total in one of the longest matches on Raw in years, peaking in the 7-minute overrun with a 5.1 rating with over 6.4 million viewers. with Raw's highest-rated segment for the rest of the month taking place at 10 p.m. on October 15th, with The Rock vs. Van Dam rematch again gaining strong to peak the night with a 4.6 rating and over 6.1 million viewers, closing the build-up to the No Mercy pay-per-view less than an hour later with Austin and Booker vs. Angle and Taker and the main event tag rebounding 600,000 viewers in the 7-minute overrun to close at a 4.3 rating. With the next 2 weeks seeing Raw hovering around a year-low average of around 5 million viewers, first with the day after the pay-per-view seeing Vince McMahon making his return to make an industry-changing challenge for a winner-take-all match, as with the Alliance Invasion angle cooling off significantly since peaking in July and August. The decision was made to blow it off at Survivor Series before bringing the top WCW headliners separately at the start of next year, with the show on the night seeing Kurt Angle vs. Rhino giving Raw its first major pickup with over 600,000 viewers to finally enter the 4 rating range for the first time with a 4.2 at 10 p.m., followed by the main event tag titles match with Rock and Jericho a day after an all-time great No Mercy pay-per-view match teaming up against the Dudleys to win the tag belts in the main event gaining over 700,000 viewers to peak the show with a 4.4 rating. While seeing October 29th starting with Vince McMahon announcing Team WWF for Survivor Series to kick off a show-long angle between all the top names of one member in the team turning on the company, seeing the broadcast showing strong growth throughout with the overall second hour climbing to a 4.2 rating with over 5.4 million viewers and the most watched hour of Raw since October 8th. Headlined with a Vince vs. Shane street fight to culminate in the reveal of Kurt Angle turning to join the Alliance in the 7-minute overrun. Entering the final stretch of the Invasion angle with the company as publicly said by Vince McMahon looking to move on from it back to regular WWF business. Raw on November 5th facing heavy competition on television fell below the 5 million viewers range for only the second time in years, with the show due to starting lower than usual seeing the first hour averaging 4.6 million viewers while growing throughout on the way to the advertised main event with Rock vs. Chris Jericho for the WCW title and the No Mercy pay-per-view rematch jumping over 800,000 viewers to peak the night with a 4.5 rating. With the Survivor Series go-home show in the final Raw of the Alliance Invasion storyline on November 12th seeing Raw picking up big to its most watched broadcast in over a month averaging over 5.5 million viewers, opening stronger than in the past few weeks with the show featuring both Austin and Rock defending the world titles and short matches against Taz and Regal on the way to the headline segment of the night, along with a first-ever Undertaker vs. Van Dam match opening the second hour to jump over 700,000 viewers in a quarter, also featuring a Rock and Vince McMahon backstage segment hyping the winner-take-all match on Sunday doing a 4.5 rating to the highest-rated full quarter of the night, with one of the most talked-about segments of the year closing the show with Rock calling out Austin to the ring at 10:48 p.m. before the final commercial break for the big Rock-Austin confrontation months in the making, hyping their eventual WrestleMania 17 rematch before trading shots and exchanging each other's catchphrases to do their recent post-match house show routine on television after debuting it on the road on October 27th. Adding another all-time iconic Rock-Austin moment in a singing duet with the segment over its 20 minutes jumping over 1.2 million viewers to the peak of the night 4.7 rating in the highest rated and most watched segment on Raw in over a month. And with the stage set for the revamped TV product to move away from the inter-promotional angle with one of the most eventful Raw shows of the year planned for the night weeks in advance. November 19th and one of the most hyped shows of the year 24 hours after the official end of the final chapter from the legacy of the Monday Night Wars on a night hyped by McMahon as a reboot show for the product, opening huge from the first quarter in a massive interest boost over the recent average with Vince announcing that there would be drastic changes taking place tonight, starting with the firing of Heyman and the return of Lawler in the first segment doing a 4.5 rating with over 6.1 million viewers and a figure above many of the main event numbers of the past month to almost enter the 5 rating range already 20 minutes into the show. with the broadcast staying strong throughout, establishing all the top guys in their new roles going forward with heel and babyface turns throughout, seeing the first hour with major hype and curiosity on the pay-per-view finish and revamped product spiking huge with a massive increase to over 6.5 million viewers in the most watched first hour on a Raw broadcast since early August, with the top match of the night coming at the top of the hour with Rock vs Kurt Angle bumping Raw over 700,000 viewers from already strong numbers to the peak quarter of the night 5.2 rating, making the Rock Angle match for the now renamed world title the highest rated segment on a Raw broadcast since early September and the first quarter to break the 7 million viewers mark in months, with the loaded show continuing to make headlines in almost every quarter, including Vince introducing his new club with William Regal as the first inductee to start one of the highest drawing TV angles of the year, closing the show with a WWF title presentation to Kurt Angle with Vince and Kurt walking to the ring at 10:54 p.m., seeing Vince declaring himself as the sole owner of the WWF to signal to the cue a minute from the top of the hour to bring out Ric Flair to a massive ovation in his first WWF appearance in almost 9 years, with the Ric Flair debut in the Overrun, which also saw Austin turning babyface to take back the title, spiking big with over 1.4 million viewers to a peak 5.5 rating with over 7.2 million viewers to see Raw jumping to its most watched show since the day after SummerSlam on August 20th with a 4.8 rating and over 6.4 million viewers, with a big boost of momentum for the new direction carrying over to November 26th and the second most watched show since September, starting to build to the title unification with a Rock promo on the announced Vengeance pay-per-view matches, followed by a confrontation with Jericho bumping Raw over 500,000 viewers to a show-high 4.5 rating, followed by them also working the top match of the night 30 minutes later with a Rock and Kane vs Jericho and Angle tag match gaining over 700,000 viewers to another 4.5 in the biggest viewership gain and joint highest full quarter of the night, setting up the main event segment with Vince coming out at 10:54 p.m. to hype Austin joining his club in the segment, seeing several swerves including Undertaker turning heel on JR in front of an hometown crowd in Oklahoma, going off the air at 11:14 p.m. in the joint longest overrun in show history to spike huge with over 1.3 million viewers to the peak of the night 5.5 rating with over 7.1 million viewers and a full rating point above any other segment on the night. After another massive spike for the McMahon segment on SmackDown in a confrontation with Rock peaking with over 8 million viewers, Raw on December 3rd was built on setting up the payoff segment of the McMahon Club just as much as the final build-up to the Vengeance pay-per-view, opening the second hour with a match previewing the double headliner on Sunday with Austin vs Jericho going 8 minutes, followed by a post-match angle of Booker stealing Austin's truck to lead to a car chase outside in Milwaukee, picking up over 800,000 viewers throughout to a 4.6 rating, with Raw peaking minutes later for a big star power promo segment seeing Vince and Angle coming out, followed by Rock in the follow-up response to last Thursday and eventually Ric Flair in the first ever Rock-Flair interaction on television, seeing the segment drawing a show-high 4.8 rating, with the main event set up from it with Rock and Trish vs Vince and Angle jumping over 700,000 viewers in the 7-minute overrun to officially book the Rock McMahon angle for Thursday, with this segment highlighting the SmackDown broadcast on December 6th more than matching expectations to spike huge to over 9 million viewers in one of the most watched segments of the past year heading into the Vengeance pay-per-view, seeing the follow-up on December 10th bumping Raw big back to over 6 million viewers, starting with Jericho's coronation segment as the first undisputed champion, with Flair to set up his first title defense in a cage match against Austin for the main event, with Raw after gradually climbing throughout the first 45 minutes of the broadcast seeing things picking up to another level at 10 p.m. with The Rock and Trish vs Studley's tag titles match gaining huge with over 1.1 million viewers to take the show from a 4.4 to the highest rated quarter of the night 5.2 rating within 15 minutes, kicking off a big second hour averaging a 5 rating with over 6.5 million viewers in the first full hour to enter the 5 rating range in the most watched 10 to 11 p.m. hour since August, headlined with Austin vs. Jericho in a title cage match going 8 minutes in the overrun to gain over 700,000 viewers to the peak of the night, 5.3 rating to close the most watched 4 days of WWF television in months, with SmackDown and Raw combining for over 14 million viewers. Seeing the final live Raw broadcast of 2001 built around a show-long Austin vs. Booker chase in the follow-up to their memorable supermarket brawl last Thursday, first in a segment picking up over 400,000 viewers to a first-hour peak 4.1 rating, continuing throughout the night all the way to the final quarter for the payoff of Booker escaping from Austin in the church, with the top 2 matches of the night placed at 10 and 11 p.m. first with Rock vs. Lance Storm at the top of the hour jumping over 500,000 viewers to the highest rated quarter of the night, 4.2 rating, followed by Jericho vs. Van Dam with Vince and Flair involved gaining another 700,000 viewers to a peak 4.3 rating in the 7-minute overrun, closing the year on a special Christmas Raw with Rock opening the show to a massive ovation in front of an hometown crowd in Miami for a special Christmas story to Jericho in a confrontation with Kurt Angle, setting up the final main event of the year with Rock, Angle and Jericho in a 3-way for the title, with Raw on the way to the match featuring a show-long angle with Vince McMahon and Ric Flair both having Christmas parties with the broadcast, which took the expected hit on Christmas Eve to bring the monthly average down, showing massive growth throughout with a big increase in the second hour averaging over 4.6 million viewers, with the Rock Angle Jericho 3-way title match going 13 minutes in the final main event of the year to peak big with over 5.7 million viewers in a viewership figure above most of the segments on the regular Raw of last Monday, closing out an unprecedented year of change and all-time industry moments, with the WWF setting the stage for the eventual brand split to kick off 2002 with one of the most hyped shows of the year from Madison Square Garden on January 7.